right, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Ball Talk with Boyd. We got our first guest here, Brandon. Brandon, you want to give yourself a little introduction?
Yes, sir. So just like Spencer said, I'm Brandon Leung. Currently, I'm serving as a personnel recruiting analyst with the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. Been working with the Bearcats for about 3 years now, so been really enjoying it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on, man. I'm excited for this. So, UC, you went there for undergrad, correct?
That's correct. Yep. I studied business analytics and minored in sports administration. Graduated from UC back in 2024.
All right. Why did you go to UC? What made you go there for undergrad?
Yeah. Honestly, really, I think the biggest reason was because it came down to like my education. So. Obviously, so I'm from Columbus originally, but UC, like I could have went to Ohio State, but like when it came down to my college decision, it really came down to my education, and I really liked their business program, really liked their business program. Loved their campus too. Like it wasn't too big, too small. Like Ohio State's like super big. They've got hundreds of thousands of people. Their student bodies, right? But Cincinnati at that time, was kind of more of a growing, a little bit more of considered more of a smaller school, and now they're a lot bigger now, going into the Big 12. So, but I love it. I love it down here. Love Cincinnati. The campus is amazing. Professors are awesome. Everything's awesome about it. I love it.
Yeah. You got there at the right time, right? Because you were a student when you guys went to the college football playoff.
Yeah, correct. But unfortunately, when my first 2 years of college, it was 2020 and 2021. But that was COVID year, so unfortunately, I was actually forced to stay at home in Columbus and take online classes. So 2022 was actually my first year getting to do in-person classes. But I did get to watch the Bearcats go play in the playoffs, so that was definitely a historic year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those COVID years were tough because I graduated high school in 2020 also. So man, it was brutal those first 2 years. But so what was give me one of your favorite stories or memories from being a student and working as a student assistant with the football team?
Oh, favorite memory?
Before you got the personnel analyst job.
Yeah, before. Honestly, I'll have to say, there's a lot of good memories, I would say. But I don't know if there's one really specific one because there's just so many good ones. But
absolutely, man.
I think I would say definitely when I got my first job with the UC Bearcats. I started out as a coach's video, student coaching video, and getting that call from my previous supervisor at that time, the video coordinator Adam Niemeyer. He called me. He's like, "Hey, we got a spot open up for you, or really an open spot. Like, do you want to, do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Might as well, get my foot in the door, take the chance, and just, learn as much as I can." And sure enough, I did that. And the reason why I say that's probably the most, one of my favorite memories is just because my first football opportunity.
Absolutely.
Get my foot in the door and actually work for, it was my first sports job, so I was really excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that was your first sports job. Tell everybody about your second sports job.
My second sports job, after 2022, then I got to work with then I stayed with the Bearcats, then I got to work in recruiting, stayed on for recruiting. So did that in 2023, and then once I was done with my undergrad, then I went ahead and got to work with the Cincinnati Bengals as a seasonal video intern for the 2024 season. So that was a really fun experience, and I love it. And hopefully one day I'll be back in the NFL.
Yes, sir. That first NFL opportunity is always so special.
Yeah.
What does a seasonal video coordinator look like to people that don't necessarily know what that video coordinator role entails?
Yeah, so a lot of it is going to be just from a practice standpoint, you're going to be really just filming practices, and then on game days you're going to be for me, I was assigned to be on the sidelines and just hand out those Microsoft tablets to, all the players and the coaches and all that. And again, I mean, like for me, during practices, I was the guy that, I was like mainly the end zone guy, the secondary end zone guy. So I was just filming from the end zone side, and then like in individual drills, I was actually filming the quarterbacks. I was kind of like the side angle, like I was standing on the sidelines with a handheld camera, and just filming all the quarterbacks on their throwing hand side, because it was more of Joe Burrow's request of getting to see what his like release is like and all that. So I was kind of that guy to film that. So that was really fun to get to be around the quarterbacks a little bit. So
yeah, what do you feel like you were able to learn during that experience?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the NFL, it's like definitely a fast-paced environment. I mean, you're also working with a lot of elite people in the building. Again, it's just a fast-paced environment, and people are like really, really on it. When I say on it, I mean like they are on top of things. From coaches, from the executives, and then the players, of course. You're around all these elite players. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
Yeah,
those guys are the best of the best. And I mean, again, like those best of the best coaches. Front office people too. I mean, just a fast-paced environment. You get to work with, the best of the best.
Yeah, I feel like my first job in the NFL in 2022 with the Jets, I realized very quickly all of my bosses and peers, they all kept telling me, hey, NFL stands for not for long. You gotta be on it. You can't miss anything. You gotta be there for everyone. And some of these guys that are in the building, they might not be here tomorrow, and there might be some new guys that you have to work with, but you got to be on it all, because it's all just like this, not for long.
Exactly, and I think the other thing too, my boss with the Bengals, he taught me, a lot of times he was harping on, take initiative, take initiative, even when no one asks, so you just gotta find ways to take initiative and just do the little things, and just do things that people don't always are gonna like explicitly or directly ask you to do.
Yeah. I feel like that's one thing, again, that I also learned, is just that people are so busy in the sports world that they don't necessarily have time to tell the people, hey, I need you to do this. I need you to do that today. I need you to come do this. You just got to make yourself busy and make yourself fit where you see it fit. So I absolutely agree with that. That's great, man. Oh, man, great opportunity there with the Bengals. That's sweet.
Yeah.
So then you left the Bengals, and then you go back to UC. What made you go back to UC versus looking at going to Alabama or going to LSU or going out to Nebraska or something like that? What made you want to go to UC instead of looking elsewhere?
Yeah, for number one, I had a direct connection with UC. So obviously I went to UC as an undergrad. So I know obviously everybody there that had worked during my time. So I had a good relationship. I have a good relationship with my GM and some of our other full-time guys there too. And video wasn't exactly what I want to do from a long-term perspective. Scouting is what I want to do long-term. And so that's why I came back to UC is number one. Like I said, is basically the connection. I also had a home already here, and I honestly consider these guys the best of the best too in this industry. Those guys that I'm working with right now are like literally some of the smartest people I've worked with, and I've learned a lot from them. And so that was the main reason why I came back, is because I wanted to just come back and keep learning and just keep getting better and evaluating players and scouting and all that. So, and in the position I am now, like I feel like after a year of like from volunteering and all the way up to here now, like I feel like I've gotten so much more better. And obviously it's still a work in progress, but I feel like I've gotten 10 times a lot better.
Yeah, the scouting lifestyle, there's always more things that you can learn and absorb throughout the process. But to kind of circle back to why you're in this whole sports world, why scouting? What about the scouting world makes you so intrigued and passionate about pushing that in the future?
Yeah, I think, I really wanted to like find a role that like made an impact on the team. When growing up, when I was a kid watching football, I just loved everything about the game of football. And I really started falling in love with football back in like 2011. I was watching a lot of Ohio State football, and then all of a sudden I was just I was starting to like memorize all these players' numbers and their jersey numbers and like their names. I'm like, what is going on with me? And like for some reason I can't even remember like some other people's name except which is weird. But like I could remember all these players' names, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But, I started memorizing all their names and I was like, okay, this is all right. I was like, maybe there's something out there that I could maybe do to help a football team, because I knew I wanted to be involved in working in football and being involved or being around it. I wasn't I wasn't gifted a 6'5" frame or anything like that.
Yeah, you weren't 6'5", 230.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm too small. I can't play football, unfortunately. But I love I wanted to be involved in football, be around it. And so that once I got to like high school, that's when I did a little more research on football jobs and football roles. I only knew about like coaching. Coaching was like the main role.
Coaching and trainers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I dug deeper and I found general manager, scouting, and I was like, wow, this is really intriguing. And also like I loved being around. I like to be around football players too. These guys are sure, like other people can view them as like celebrities and whatnot, but they're just your average normal people.
Yeah, they're just a regular Joe Schmo.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean that's why I love scout. That's why I wanted to pursue scouting. Just get to be around the players. Also, just an opportunity to watch film. I love watching film too, and just love learning more and more about the game of football.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like football is such an art that it takes a certain perspective of seeing it to really understand just how much really goes into it all. Because I feel like for me, it was when I was growing up and I was working with my mom at the Westin Hotel, and I would help her with all the teams coming in. And when they would come in, they'd stay there. And then when they'd leave, all the team meetings, the meals and all that stuff, I was seeing all of that stuff go into it. And I'm like, whoa. So it's not just what they do on the field on Sunday or on the baseball field on Tuesday afternoon. It's all of this stuff, this whole process that takes all these people to get it done. And it just really put it into perspective that working in sports and for a team, you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And I feel like that's such a beautiful thing about working in sports.
Yeah, I mean, the best part too is just, like you said, like it's just being behind the scenes of sports. Not everyone's going to see what goes on behind the scenes. All the hard work that's put in, all the people, all the sports staff especially, they don't get a lot of credit for it. So, but like again, it's just like the behind the scenes stuff is just really, really cool to actually see it, and then to be involved in it is really cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've gone over your background a little bit more, some of your previous roles, tell us about your current role, what that day-to-day looks like, and even maybe how you've helped out with the setting up of the Pro Day coming up this week and your role within that.
Yeah, so again, like I'm a person right now, my title is a personnel recruiting analyst. So I'm not full-time. I'm not considered full-time, but basically like considered like more of a full-time intern. But basically my day-to-day kind of consists of a lot of like, we're watching a lot of high school film through Huddle. And by doing that, we do a lot of cut-ups, high school cut-ups. That's probably like the majority of what we do. And then I also help out with our co-DC and linebackers coach, as well as our defensive line coach in communication and recruiting communication, or really any other task that is related to recruiting. So a lot of it's just helping them text the recruits, making sure that they're prioritized and that we're having a strong communication and relationship with them.
Yeah.
Yep. And then sometimes I'm out here writing letters for them. And then there's the other days where maybe I have get to meet me, like the D-line coach, will get to meet and just go over our board or something like that. Making sure that we're in good shape and that we're pursuing the right guys and all that. but a lot of it, and then of course, recruiting operation as well. When it comes game days, I'm there to help in any way possible. And then during this time now, in what is this, March? We just kicked off our spring ball, spring ball like last week. So I'm going to week 2 now, and so now during this time we've got like we're trying to get as many top priority recruits to campus. And so as they come into campus, I'm basically hosting some of these recruits and their families, taking them around our facility, taking them from places to places, and just getting them to watch some football out there. Get to watch some Bearcats ball out. So
absolutely, man, love that.
That's kind of like the day to day. But yeah.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite part about that? Is it the watching the tape? Is it the communication with the guys and the coaches, between the coaches and the recruits? Is it the on-campus recruiting hosting events? What part is your favorite part and why?
Yeah, so I would say definitely my favorite part is getting to watch film.
Yeah.
Doing all these cut-ups that, because we have a lot of cut-ups and we watch a lot of these high school guys. Especially going from from the start of the season all the way up to like right now, and the more guys that we cut up, the more like we'll find these players, good players and all that. Sometimes hidden gems and all, which is really fun. But I think what's really fun is like, I think it's like the entire process when you find a good player, right, and then you start recruiting them, you start texting them, creating and building this relationship with them. Once you have a strong relationship with them, you bring them onto campus. See what they're like as a person, and if they check the boxes, then heck, we're gonna keep recruiting them. And then when the time comes, we're gonna OV them, official visit, do an official visit with them. And then OVs are always the best time too, summer OVs especially, because we do a lot of things for them. It's a fun time. And then the best part is, some of these guys, a lot of these guys will start committing to us like once their OV weekends are done. That's probably the best part. But then again, it's just once they commit, it's a constant battle still all the way up until signing day. So
I can imagine, man, especially in 2026 with the NIL era. So my next question actually was going to be based off of your time there. So you've been there throughout a decent amount of change, in the sense that NIL has become a flourishing thing that has changed how people make their rosters in all sports in NCAA, as well as you've been there for a coaching staff switch from old to current. So tell me first about the NIL change and how that's kind of affected your approach to everything, and then secondly we'll go into how that transition was and how you feel like that has helped you grow as a professional as well.
Yeah, so in terms of NIL, so I'm not really involved in any much of NIL, but like from a perspective, from like a kind of like a, I'll say it more of a from a fan perspective, I guess. But like, it's definitely changed. It's a whole new era. I think it's really becoming now like an NFL model where transfer guys, when people are transferring, I think you've seen it too. Like there's over 3,000, 4,000, almost 5,000 guys, entering the portal. And essentially that's like free agency right there, where, it's, teams are out here just paying them to come play for them, and then, but then, some of these high school guys too, obviously they get paid too. But, it's more of like a, at this level, it's like a level of maturity where, they need to understand, like, listen, like, yes, you're getting paid, but like, don't get too greedy about it, like,
absolutely.
You come to college to develop, so don't forget about the development part. And I think you've seen it all over, like, the sports world, not just for football, from like, other sports like basketball and all that. Like,
absolutely.
Talking about it too, like, you come to college, to develop. You're still a young guy, and you got to develop and pursue an education. Set yourself, on the right path. Because like, it's a meritocracy here, so everything's earned. And in my opinion, you got to be the best version of yourself as much as you can, and then the money will come.
Yeah.
If your goal is to be in the NFL, that's where you get all the money.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in college. Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that you've had to change your approach when you're talking with people? I feel like you almost have to really take a deep dive into people's character and how they are as a person now, just because you have those people that are just trying to get the money and all these different things. I feel like you almost have to be a little bit more in tune with who you're recruiting and what type of person it is to make sure that it fits the right culture. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%. I mean, again, especially for some of these high school guys that we're trying to recruit to, they're still learning about, and their parents too, they're still learning about NIL and things like that,
Yeah.
Same here, me, I'm still, everyone's still learning.
Everyone's still learning. Nobody understands it.
Correct. So it's new. But, it's still, I wouldn't say it's fully established in my opinion, but it's still a work in progress. And some of these kids just, like I said, they just gotta, keep in mind it's a you get to college, you come into college and you're trying to develop from a young man to a grown man,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So now that we've covered NIL a little bit, tell me about that change in coaching staff and how you as the personnel staff have had to adjust to the coaching staff change.
Yeah, so I was working in 2022, I was working under Fickle, and that was his last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then so once he left, he took his recruiting staff with them too. So it was definitely, during that time when he had left and we had a bowl game left to be played, it was definitely a weird, weird mood, I would say, weird environment, I would say. But, once Coach Sat got here and his staff got here, I love Coach Sat. Coach Sat and his staff, they are phenomenal people, easygoing, down to earth people. But the transition was just a little bit, I would say it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad in my opinion, but the people, when Coach Sat got here, they're just super easy people to talk to. Coach Fickle's guys, Coach Fickle was a great coach for sure, no doubt about that. But some of his coaches were just not as approachable to go talk to. Compared to Coach Sat's coaches, but
and that's a big deal.
I think that was one of the biggest difference between those two coaches, staff from a staff member standpoint.
Absolutely. So we've covered a majority of what I have wanted to cover, but one of my goals with this podcast is I want to encourage other people who are trying to work in sports and to let them know that there's more than just coaches and trainers that are on the staff. There's so many other roles. So what is your message to, some high schoolers or college students that are hoping to work in sports? What's your advice and a little word of encouragement for them?
Yeah, so for the younger guys, I would say if you're in high school, I would definitely say maybe start working for your high school sports team or whatever, whether that's football, soccer, whatever, just to get some experience out of it. Going back, I feel I never did it, but if I were to go back to high school, I definitely would have tried to work for my high school football team for sure. But
just get some experience when you can.
Yeah, get some experience, and because that's really important. And then once you get into college, try to get your foot in the door and work with the football team or whatever sports that you really like or really passionate about. So for me, football. So I was literally just reaching out to just about everybody on the staff, emailing them from the equipment guys to the operations guys to the strength coaches, everybody, until I got a response back. So
everybody heard from Brandon.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
So just hit up everybody, and just sometimes you get lucky. They'll post hey, they're looking for student workers or something. So don't be afraid to take a chance at that, because that's a great way. Whatever it is, do whatever it is, just take it, because it's all about just getting your foot in the door, and then maybe if you don't like the current role that you're in, you still you're literally right in you got your foot in the door.
You're in the building.
Exactly. You're in the building, so go talk to whoever you want that you don't want to work with. So like me, started out in video, and I knew I wanted to work in scouting and recruiting, and when Coach Zach got here, that's when I got to meet our current GM, and that's when I expressed my interest to want to work in recruiting, and luckily they were looking to add more interns, so I got my chance at it. So.
Yeah, I would say that I feel like all of my positions that I've held in sports, in football especially so far, I don't think I've ever just done an application and gotten a role. It's always about networking, building those relationships with people, and really connecting with them, so that, like you said, when you're approaching somebody one day, they'll be like, hey, actually, we're looking to help. We're looking for help. We're looking for an addition. And there you go. Your foot's in the door all of a sudden. So, yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, this is a who you know the what you know industry, and it's a cliche thing to say in this industry, but it's true. It's just all about networking. It's all about people vouching for you. Like you said, I rarely ever see people applying online and they actually getting a job. One of my friend actually got a job through an online application, and then he got an interview with them and actually got it. So that was one in a million chances.
Yeah,
so
seriously,
very rare,
it's tough.
Very, very rare. Very rare.
Yeah, it's tough. There's 1,000 applications going in per week per football job. So yeah, exactly. Make yourself stand out for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of these applications too are going to be pre-filled roles, and it's just more of a HR
protocol
purpose type type thing. So again, just go out and just network with people, network with as much people as you can, and then rely on your supervisors too, because they're I'm sure they're well experienced, and they have a lot of other networks that can help you out as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Well, Brandon, I appreciate you for being our first guest on Ball Talk with Boyd. We'll be back soon with another episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you, Brandon, again for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.